I didn't panic when I found the manifesto hidden in my grandson's backpack. My hands were steady as I photographed every page, every diagram, every name on his list. I knew exactly what I had to do, even though it would destroy my family. I carefully placed everything back exactly as I found it, went to my bedroom, and made a phone call that would change everything. 48 hours later, I watched through my kitchen window as 3 FBI vehicles pulled into my driveway. They weren't here for me. They were here for Tyler. Let me back up. My name is Robert, but everyone calls me Bob. I'm 67 years old, spent 32 years with the Minneapolis Fire Department before I retired. My wife, Linda, passed away 3 years ago from ovarian cancer. We raised 2 boys in a ranch house in Edina, saved every dollar we could, and somehow managed to put both through college without drowning in debt. That was our legacy to them. Michael is my oldest. He's 44 now, divorced 2 years ago from a woman named Jessica who works in corporate law. They have 2 kids, my grandchildren, Tyler, who just turned 16, and Emma, who's 14. For years, I thought I knew Tyler, the quiet kid who loved chess and science fiction novels, the honor student who never gave us a moment of trouble, the teenager who actually wanted to spend weekends at Grandpa's house instead of with friends. I thought I understood him. I was catastrophically wrong. It started 4 months ago, in October. Michael was pulling double shifts at his engineering firm, trying to keep up with alimony and child support. He asked if the kids could stay with me for a few weeks while he sorted out his new apartment. I didn't think twice. I'd been lonely in this house since Linda died, rattling around in rooms full of memories. Having Tyler and Emma here, filling the place with life again, felt like a gift. Tyler was helpful, almost too helpful. He'd cook dinner, do his homework without being asked, help Emma with her algebra. Every night before bed, he'd hug me and say, "Thanks for letting us stay, Grandpa. You're the best." I'd ruffle his hair like I did when he was 6 and tell him, "That's what family's for, buddy." The first sign something was wrong came on a Tuesday night in late October. I went downstairs around midnight to get a glass of water and heard sounds coming from the basement. Typing, clicking, the occasional frustrated grunt. I opened the door quietly. Tyler was at Linda's old computer, the one I'd given him to use for schoolwork. The screen's glow illuminated his face in the dark, and for a second, I didn't recognize the expression I saw there. Cold, calculating. When he heard me on the stairs, he minimized the window so fast I barely saw what he'd been looking at. "Can't sleep?" I asked, keeping my tone light. He jumped like I'd fired a gun. "Just working on a history project. Sorry, Grandpa. Didn't mean to wake you." "No problem. Don't stay up too late." "I won't." But something about the way he looked at me, that flash of panic before the smile, made my stomach clench. I went back upstairs but didn't sleep. At my age, you develop instincts about people, about situations. 29 years of running into burning buildings teaches you to recognize danger even when you can't see the flames yet. The next morning, I checked the computer's browser history. Tyler had cleared it. Completely. Not just recent stuff. Everything. Going back weeks. A 16-year-old boy who clears his entire browser history isn't just hiding porn. He's hiding something worse. I told myself I was being paranoid. Tyler was a good kid. Straight as. Chess club. Never been in trouble. Michael and Jessica's divorce had been hard on him, sure, but he seemed to be handling it well, better than Emma, who cried herself to sleep some nights. I decided to let it go. That was my first mistake. 3 weeks later, I was putting away Tyler's laundry. He'd asked me not to, said he preferred to do it himself, but I was his grandfather. I'd been doing laundry since before he was born. As I was putting his jeans in the drawer, something fell out of the pocket. A USB drive. Small, black, unmarked. I should have left it alone. I should have given it back to him and respected his privacy. But that feeling from the night at the computer came rushing back, and Linda's voice echoed in my head. She always said, "Trust, but verify," especially with teenagers. I took the drive to my bedroom and plugged it into my laptop. There were dozens of files. Text documents, PDFs, images. I opened the first document. It was titled "Why" in simple letters. I read for 10 minutes before I had to run to the bathroom and throw up. My grandson had written a 23-page manifesto explaining, in meticulous detail, why certain students at Roosevelt High School deserved to die. He named names, 17 of them. Kids who'd excluded him, laughed at him, Spread rumors after his parents' divorce that his dad was cheating, that his mom was crazy. He described how each betrayal felt, how the pain accumulated, how he'd realized that the only way to make them understand was to show them what real pain feels like. But it wasn't just ranting. There were diagrams, floor plans of the school with patrol routes marked, camera blind spots highlighted, exit points circled. There were schedules, when each target would be in which classroom. There were supply lists, chemical formulas, instructions for building explosive devices from materials you could buy at Home Depot and Walmart. And there was a date, February 14th, Valentine's Day. 6 weeks away. He'd written, "They celebrate love while surrounded by people they've made feel worthless. They'll learn the price of their cruelty." I sat there on my bed, Linda's side of the bed that still smelled faintly like her perfume, and I felt the world tilt. My grandson, my quiet, brilliant chess-playing grandson, was planning a school shooting. My Tyler, who used to catch spiders in cups to release them outside because he didn't like killing things, had pages of detailed plans for killing 17 people. Children. The USB drive had more files, screenshots of dark web forums where he'd been asking questions about security systems. Order confirmations for purchases made with prepaid debit cards to addresses I didn't recognize. Photos he'd taken inside the school. Angles that showed vulnerabilities in their safety protocols. I copied everything to my laptop and put the USB drive back in his jeans pocket, hands shaking so badly it took 3 tries. Then I sat in my bedroom until 3 a.m., trying to decide what to do. I could confront Tyler directly. But what if that pushed him over the edge? What if he moved up his timeline? I could call Michael. But Michael had dismissed every concern I'd raised about Tyler's withdrawal. His mood changes. He's a teenager going through a divorce, Dad. Give him space. I could call Jessica, but she and Michael couldn't agree on what to have for dinner, much less how to handle their son's mental health crisis. I could call the police, but Tyler was 16, an honor student with no record. Would they even take it seriously? Or would they call Michael, give Tyler a warning and send him home, where he'd know that I'd betrayed him? And then what? At dawn, I made my decision. I called Tyler's school and asked to speak with the principal. I explained who I was and said I needed to discuss a serious safety concern about my grandson. They scheduled me for 9 a.m. that same morning. I sat across from Principal Henderson, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes that reminded me of Linda's. I told her everything, showed her the files on my laptop, watched her face go from skeptical to pale to horrified in the space of 5 minutes. "Mr. Carlson," she said carefully, "I appreciate you bringing this to us, but you understand, without an imminent threat, without an actual weapon, our hands are somewhat tied. We can require Tyler to meet with the school counselor, but we can't expel him based on writings and research. He has explosives materials," I said. "In my basement. I found them yesterday. Fertilizer, fuel oil, ball bearings. He told me it's for a science fair project." That wasn't entirely true. I'd found cleaning supplies and some hardware, but I was reasonably sure I knew what he was gathering them for. Sometimes you have to make people understand the urgency. "Do you have proof of that?" "I can get it, but Principal Henderson, if I go home and document everything, if this takes weeks of meetings and assessments while we wait for the system to catch up, how many kids might die? My granddaughter is one of them. Emma goes to your school. She's in Tyler's files. He wrote that she chose their mother over me. Traitor." Her hands were shaking now, too. "I need to make some calls." She called the superintendent. The superintendent called the district's legal counsel. The legal counsel called the police. Within 2 hours, there were detectives in that conference room, asking me to tell them everything again, asking to see the files, asking if I'd be willing to let them search my house, specifically Tyler's room. "Yes," I said. "Whatever you need." "Mr. Carlson, if we do this, if what you're telling us checks out, your grandson will be arrested. He'll face serious charges. This will be public. Your family will know you're the one who reported him." I thought about Linda, about the stories she'd tell at dinner from her work at the children's hospital, about the Sandy Hook parents she'd seen on the news, destroyed by grief, about Emma, 14 years old with her whole life ahead of her, about the 17 names on Tyler's list, kids I didn't know but who had parents who loved them just as much as I loved Tyler. "I understand," I said. "Do it anyway." They moved cautiously. Too cautiously, I thought. But they explained they needed to build a solid case. They couldn't just raid my house on the word of a grandfather who might be mistaken, who might be exaggerating. They needed to verify. They put surveillance on Tyler. They worked with the school to monitor his movements, his locker, his interactions. They sent undercover officers to watch the places where the delivery confirmations said packages had been sent. For 5 days, I lived in my house with my grandson, acting normal, making breakfast, asking about homework, playing chess with him in the evenings, all while knowing what I knew, all while watching him for signs that he knew I knew. It was the longest 5 days of my life. Every time Tyler went to the basement, I wondered if this was it. If he'd discovered the files were copied. If he'd found some hidden camera the police had planted. If he'd decided to move up his timeline because he sensed walls closing in. On day 4, Tyler asked me something that made my blood freeze. We were playing chess, something we'd done every Saturday night since he was 8 years old. He moved his knight and looked up at me. "Grandpa, do you think some people deserve to die?" I kept my face neutral, moved my bishop. "That's a heavy question, buddy. Why do you ask?" "Just thinking about stuff. About justice. About people who hurt other people and never face consequences. I think," I said carefully, "that everyone deserves a chance to change, to be better than their worst moment. And I think killing someone takes away that chance forever. Takes away all their other chances too, the good ones. Even if they hurt people first, even if they're cruel. Even then, because Tyler hurt people hurt people. It's a cycle. Someone has to be brave enough to break it instead of continuing it." He stared at the chessboard for a long time. Then he moved his queen and said, "Checkmate, Grandpa." I looked down. He was right. I hadn't seen it coming. "Good game," I said. "You taught me well," he replied. "You always said the key to chess is thinking 10 moves ahead. Seeing the whole board, not just the next step." The next morning was Tyler's 16th birthday. I made his favorite breakfast, chocolate chip pancakes, the same recipe Linda used to make. Emma came downstairs first, gave her brother an awkward hug. "Happy birthday, weirdo." "Thanks, nerd," Tyler said, but he smiled. It was the most normal I'd seen them interact in weeks. Michael showed up around noon with presents. A new laptop, a gift card to Tyler's favorite bookstore, some clothes. Tyler thanked him politely, but there was distance there. The divorce had fractured something between them that birthday gifts couldn't fix. That evening, just Tyler and me, I made his favorite dinner. Lasagna, garlic bread, Caesar salad. We sat at the kitchen table, the same table where Linda and I had celebrated 40 years of birthdays and holidays and ordinary Tuesdays that turned out to matter more than we knew. "Tyler," I said, "I want to tell you something about your grandma." He looked up from his lasagna. "Okay." When she was dying, those last few weeks, she was in a lot of pain. She asked me once if I'd help her end it, said she was ready to go, didn't want to suffer anymore. Tyler's eyes widened. "What did you say?" I said no. I told her I loved her too much to do that, even though it killed me to watch her hurt. And you know what she said? "What?" she said. "That's how I know you really love me. Because you're willing to let me be angry at you if it means I get even one more day to maybe see something beautiful. One more sunrise. One more visit from the grandkids. One more chance." Tyler was quiet. I continued. "She died 3 days later. Natural causes, peacefully in her sleep. And those 3 days, Tyler, we watched movies together. You and Emma came to visit. She got to see the first snow of winter, which she always loved. She got 3 more chances for good moments, because I chose to be the bad guy, to deny her what she asked for, because I believed in those chances. Why are you telling me this, Grandpa? Because sometimes love looks like saying no, like making hard choices that people hate you for, like believing in someone's future even when they've stopped believing in it themselves." We finished dinner in silence. Tyler helped me clean up, hugged me goodnight. "Thanks for dinner, Grandpa." And the story. Happy birthday, Tyler. At 6 a.m. the next morning, I heard vehicles pulling up outside. I'd been awake all night, waiting. I went to the window and saw them. 3 black SUVs, 1 marked police car, men in FBI windbreakers. They'd found what they needed. The delivery address was a storage unit Tyler had rented using a fake ID. Inside, enough materials to build explosives that could kill dozens. Detailed plans that proved intent. Communications with other troubled teens online, sharing strategies. I opened the door before they knocked. "He's upstairs. Second door on the left. Please, don't scare his sister. She doesn't know anything." They were professional, quiet. Two agents went upstairs while others spread through the house, documenting everything. I heard Tyler's voice, confused, then frightened. "Grandpa? Grandpa, what's happening?" I stood at the bottom of the stairs as they brought him down in handcuffs. He was in his pajamas, hair messy from sleep, eyes wild. When he saw me standing there, saw that I wasn't surprised, saw that I'd known they were coming, his expression changed. "You," he said. "You did this." "Yes. I trusted you." "I know. I hate you." "I know that too." They took him away. Emma came out of her room crying, and I held her while she sobbed. Michael arrived an hour later, furious. Jessica 30 minutes after that, screaming. Both of them wanted to know how I could do this, how I could destroy Tyler's life, how I could betray my own grandson. "He was going to kill 17 people, I said quietly, including Emma. "Would you rather plan his funeral or visit him in juvenile detention?" "He's 16, Jessica shouted. "He's a child. They're going to charge him with terrorism." "He had explosives. He had a date. He had a list. He wasn't planning, Jessica. He was executing." I stopped him with 48 hours to spare before his target date. Michael sank into a chair, head in his hands. "Dad, how could you not tell us? How could you not give us a chance to handle this as a family?" "I tried. 3 times in the last 2 months. I told you Tyler was struggling, that something was wrong. You said I was overreacting, that he just needed space. I gave you chances, Michael. Tyler ran out of chances. They left, both of them." Emma went back to Jessica's apartment. Michael stopped answering my calls. For the next 3 months, I lived alone in my house. The same house that had been filled with grandchildren's laughter just weeks before. The legal process was brutal and public. Tyler's case made the news. Teen arrested in thwarted school attack. The reporters found out I was the one who'd reported him. Some called me a hero. Others called me a traitor. Said I should have gotten Tyler help instead of calling the authorities. Said I'd ruined an innocent boy's life over teenage angst and creative writing. The evidence said otherwise. Forensic analysis of Tyler's computer revealed he'd been planning this for 8 months. The divorce was the catalyst, but the groundwork went deeper. Years of perceived slights, of feeling invisible, of watching kids he thought were cruel or fake or undeserving get scholarships and dates and college acceptances while he got nothing but, "Good job, Tyler," and pats on the head. The prosecutor offered a deal. If Tyler pleaded guilty to terrorism-related charges and agreed to intensive psychiatric treatment, he'd be sentenced as a juvenile. 7 years in a juvenile facility with mental health treatment, eligible for release at 23 with 5 years of supervised probation. If he went to trial as an adult, he could face life in prison. Tyler took the deal. At his sentencing, he looked at me across the courtroom. I couldn't read his expression. The judge asked if anyone wanted to make a statement. I stood up. "Your Honor, I want my grandson to know that I love him. That I've always loved him. That I will always love him. And that love is why he's standing here today instead of lying in a grave or having caused the deaths of innocent people. I chose his future over his present happiness. I chose 17 other children's lives over my relationship with him. I chose to be hated if it meant he'd have a chance to heal, to grow, to become the man I know he's capable of being. I don't regret what I did. I only regret that it had to come to this." Tyler looked away. They took him to Red Wing Juvenile Facility that afternoon. I visited him once a month, every month, for the first year. He refused to see me every single time. The guards would come back and say, "He declined visitation, sir." And I'd drive home, 2 hours back to Adina, and try not to think about how much he must hate me. 18 months into his sentence, I got a letter, typed, formal, addressed to me at the house. I opened it with shaking hands. "Grandpa, my therapist says I should write to you. I've been in therapy 4 times a week since I got here. They diagnosed me with depression, anxiety, PTSD from the divorce, some other things. They have me on medication now. It helps. I can think clearly for the first time in years. I need to tell you something, and I need you to hear it, even though I'm not sure I fully believe it yet myself. You saved my life, not just from prison or death, but from becoming someone I couldn't come back from being. The person I was turning into. The person who wrote those plans. That person was going to destroy not just those 17 people, but me too. There would have been no coming back, no second chance, no possibility of ever being okay again. I'm not okay now, but I'm getting there. I'm doing the work, and I have time to do it because you gave me that time. You chose to save me even though it meant I'd hate you. My therapist says that's the purest form of love, putting someone else's true needs above your want to be liked by them. I don't know if I'm ready to see you yet, but I wanted you to know that I'm starting to understand. And understanding is the first step toward forgiveness. Thank you for the birthday dinner. Thank you for the story about Grandma. Thank you for making the hardest choice. Tyler, I read that letter 17 times the day I received it. I keep it in my wallet, in the same place I kept Linda's photo. I've read it 100 times since. On the bad days, when Michael still won't return my calls, when Emma asks why Grandpa can't come to her school events anymore, when I lie awake wondering if I did the right thing, I read Tyler's letter and remember why I made the choice I did. 6 months after the letter, Tyler agreed to see me. We sat in the visitation room with a glass partition between us, talking through phones like they do in movies. He looked older. Healthier, actually. The frantic energy that had been building in him was gone, replaced by a calm I hadn't seen since he was a little kid. I want to be a counselor, he said. When I get out, work with kids who are going through what I went through. Stop them before they get to where I got. That's good, Tyler. Your grandma would be proud of that. I think about what would have happened if you hadn't found that USB drive, or if you found it but didn't report it. They showed me, in therapy, statistics about school shooters who survive. Most kill themselves after. The ones who don't, they spend the rest of their lives in prison, completely broken. I would have been one of them, dead or wishing I was dead. You're not that person anymore. No, but I was becoming him, and I couldn't see it. That's the scariest part, Grandpa. I thought I was making sense. I thought I was the rational one and everyone else was blind. We talked for the full hour they allowed. When it was over, when the guard came to take him back, Tyler stood up and pressed his hand against the glass. I pressed mine against it from my side. I love you, Grandpa. I love you too, kid. Tyler's now been in treatment for 2.5 years. He'll be eligible for supervised release in 4.5 more years, when he turns 23. He writes to me every week now. He's working on his GED, taking college courses through a prison education program. He talks about Emma, how he wants to rebuild that relationship when he gets out. He asks about Michael, hopes that maybe someday his dad will understand too. I see Emma twice a month now. Jessica finally agreed to let me back into her life. She apologized last Christmas, said she understood why I did what I did, said she was sorry for calling me a traitor. You chose the hard right over the easy wrong, she said. That took courage I'm not sure I would have had. Michael still doesn't speak to me. He sends Emma with Jessica. Won't come to the door when I pick her up. I hope someday that changes. But if it doesn't, I'll understand. Some bridges burn and don't rebuild. That's the price I paid. Last Saturday, Emma and I were baking cookies, Linda's recipe. She looked up at me with flour on her nose, so much like her grandmother it hurt, and said, "Grandpa, my teacher says that heroes don't always look like heroes. Sometimes they look like regular people making terrible choices that turn out to be right. Is that true?" I thought about Tyler in that facility, working toward a future instead of lying in a grave. I thought about 17 kids at Roosevelt High School who graduated last year, alive and whole, who have no idea how close they came to never making it to graduation. I thought about Linda and what she would say if she were here. Yes, sweetheart, that's true. Sometimes the right thing feels wrong in the moment. Sometimes being loved feels like being hurt, but you do it anyway because you believe in tomorrow more than you fear today. She nodded, satisfied, and went back to stirring cookie dough. I watched her and felt something loosen in my chest that had been tight for years. This is what I saved. These ordinary moments. This granddaughter who gets to grow up. This grandson who gets a second chance. These cookies we're making together on a Saturday afternoon. People ask me sometimes if I regret what I did. The answer is complicated. I regret that it was necessary. I regret that I couldn't reach Tyler before he went so far down that dark path. I regret the cost, the fractured family, the relationships that may never heal. But do I regret reporting him? Regret stopping him? No, never. Because every time I see Emma smile, every time I read one of Tyler's letters talking about the future he wants to build, I know I made the right choice. The hardest right choice, but still the right one. I learned something through all of this. Something Linda tried to teach me, but I only understood when I had to live it. Love isn't just warmth and support and showing up to birthday parties. Sometimes love is cold and hard and looks like betrayal. Sometimes love means you destroy your relationship with someone today so they have a relationship with themselves tomorrow. Sometimes love means you choose their life over your place in it. I think about that USB drive often, the one I found in Tyler's pocket, the one that contained plans for 17 funerals. People might judge me for what I did next. They might say I should have tried harder to reach him first, should have given him one more chance, should have kept it in the family. Maybe they're right. I'll never know for certain. But I do know this. Tyler is alive. 17 other children are alive. Parents didn't have to bury their babies. And my grandson has a chance to become someone who helps people instead of hurting them. That wouldn't have happened if I'd done nothing. That wouldn't have happened if I'd waited for someone else to make the hard call. 7 years from now, when Tyler is released, I'll be 74. I'll be there waiting for him. I'll drive him home, make him chocolate chip pancakes, and welcome him back to a life he still gets to live because someone loved him enough to stop him. I don't know if he'll want that. I don't know if we'll ever be close again the way we were when he was little, when I taught him chess and he thought his grandpa hung the moon. But I'll be there anyway, because that's what love looks like. Not just the good times. Not just the easy choices. Love is showing up even when you're the villain in someone's story, trusting that someday they might understand you were actually the hero. To anyone reading this, anyone who sees warning signs in someone they love, trust your instincts. Act before tragedy makes action pointless. It doesn't matter if you're wrong and overreacting. Better to be embarrassed than to be standing at a funeral wishing you'd said something, done something, been brave enough to be hated. Because here's what I know for certain. After 67 years on this planet, after 32 years running into burning buildings, after 3 years without my Linda, you can recover from someone being angry at you. You can rebuild relationships. You can earn forgiveness over time. But you can't recover from death. You can't rebuild someone who's gone. You can't earn back time that's lost forever. Choose life. Choose intervention. Choose the hard conversation over the comfortable silence. Choose being hated today over living with regret forever. That's my story. That's what I did. Whether it was right or wrong, history will judge. God will judge. Tyler will judge. All I know is, when I close my eyes at night, I see Emma's smile and Tyler's letters about the future, and I sleep just fine.